Welcome to the Raven Quick Start video for Raven 3.6. In this video, we'll show you how to register and install the Raven software for Windows. Let's get started. After plugging in the Raven, users will notice that Touch works natively on Windows. However, we recommend installing the Raven software as soon as possible. To do this, locate your passcode card and follow the instructions. First, navigate to slatemt.com /redeem-raven. Then select your OS. We're going to do Windows. We're going to authorize Pro Tools. Type in your email address. Type in your name, and type in the passcode. Then hit send. Now users will log into your Slate product page, and you'll notice Raven Windows. In here, you can follow the setup tutorials, calibration tutorials, and quick start guides for your Raven batch command training. You can click here to buy an additional passcode for the Raven. And here, you could download the installer for your Raven. Go ahead and click the download. And while it's installing, we'll register the iLock. So in your email, users will get a Raven activation details email. In here, copy your iLock code. Go to your iLock License Manager and click the Redeem tab in the top right. Paste in the code and hit Next. Please note you'll need an iLock 2 or 3 dongle to activate the software too. Next, click Activate. Now that activation is complete, we can install the software. Go to my downloads. And I'll run the Raven installer. In this installer, users will notice it installs Raven, Bonjour, the touch driver. If you're using an MTI-1, you'll want to check the second box for the PQStream touch driver. It's going to install the Microsoft library, vControl Pro, window layouts for Pro Tools and Cubase, key commands for Cubase, and the DAW preferences. Now click Next and hit Install. Now users will be prompted to install the UPDD touch driver. This is necessary to unlock multi-touch on the Raven software. After installation, users will be prompted by Windows Security to install the device. Be sure to check Always Trust Software from TouchBase and hit Install. Once installation for UPDD has completed, users will be prompted by UPDD for the identification process. And they should also notice that a device is connected. Click Finish. Now, users will be prompted to run vControl Pro. vControl Pro is necessary to connect the Raven faders and transport with the DAW. We will be showing how to configure vControl Pro later in this video. After installation is complete, users will be prompted to restart the computer. Hit No on vControl Pro and wait for the Raven setup to complete before restarting, and then restart the computer. After installation, users should have touch, and in the system tray icon, they'll notice this hand icon for the UPDD touch driver. Click it, and in status, users should notice it says Slate Media Technology Raven, status is OK. If using multiple displays, users will want to configure the touch driver. Click the icon from the system tray and hit Configure. This will prompt users to touch the cross on the touch screens and hit Next on the non-touch screens. Then, users can be prompted to calibrate the Raven touch If users have performed the configuration from UPDD and touch is still occurring on the incorrect monitor, users may need to configure the Windows native touch in the tablet PC settings. To do this, go to the control panel of Windows, and in Hardware and Sound, under Tablet PC Settings, click the Setup button. This will run users through a couple prompts to detect the touchscreens for Windows. Hit the Setup, and if it's a touchscreen, tap with your finger. If it's not a touchscreen, hit Enter. After this is complete, touch should show up on the correct display. If it is still on the opposite display, users will want to restart the computer. To confirm Multitouch is working with UPDD, open the Paint application and draw with Multitouch. If users cannot draw with Multitouch, there may be a permissions issue and further troubleshooting steps will be needed. Please check out the support article on unlocking Windows Native Touch with UPDD if this is the case. Next part of the setup, users will want to ensure the display settings are set to 1080p. In the displays, be sure the resolution is set to 1920 by 1080. Also, check the box to make the Raven the main display for easiest use. Next, we'll want to hide the taskbar to leave extra space for the Raven faders and the DAW. Right-click the taskbar and in Taskbar Settings, select Automatically Hide the taskbar. Users may also want to relocate the taskbar to the top of the screen, as when hitting buttons on the bottom of the screen may bring up the taskbar. Since Windows has native touch gestures, we can swipe from the edge of the screen to show the desktops, swipe from the right of the screen to show the notifications, and swipe from the top of the screen to show the taskbar. Now, users want to open vControl Pro. Windows will prompt the user to check these boxes to give vControl Pro access to these networks. Check the boxes and hit Allow Access. vControl Pro now has access to the local networks. In vControl Pro, in the Setups page, users should notice the V window here. This will ensure that vControl Pro is properly connected to the network. Now, we can launch the Raven software. Users will need to hit Yes in User Account Control, or if users would like to turn this off, select User Account Control Settings and set these to Never. Now users will not be prompted to allow the application when launching every time. Open the Raven software, and this will launch the Raven dashboard. Windows has prompted us for security to give the Raven access to the networks. Check the boxes and hit Allow Access. Users will now see the Raven dashboard. This Raven dashboard will show all installed DAWs and their license status. In the Settings tab, we can set up the default navpad scrolling and touchscreen settings. In Tutorials, you could load videos and manuals. To set up the Raven with Cubase, click the Open button next to the Cubase icon to automatically open Cubase and the Raven toolbars. The Raven will automatically install workspaces for easy alignment. These workspaces are utilized by the Project Mix button on the Raven to open up the project and the Mix window. These are associated to workspaces 1 and 2. If users would like to adjust these workspaces, make your changes here and just click Update on the workspace. Now, when switching workspaces, this will save all those settings. These workspaces save globally, so this will work across all layouts. Once Cubase and the Raven toolbars are open, users will notice the play and stop button push down on the Raven, but they do not control Cubase. This is because we need to set up vControl Pro for Cubase. To do this, go to the Studio tab, and under Studio Setups, Remote Devices, click the Add button. Next, select vControl Pro from the menu and set the banks to 24. Then hit OK. Users will now notice the stop button is pushed down on Raven. This means that the Raven, vControl Pro, and Cubase are all syncing. Hit the play button to confirm communication. Next, open up the floating mixer, and users will notice they have faders. However, it's possible we will need to restart this Cubase project to get Cubase and vControl Pro to sync. So if we're only showing 8 faders, save the current session and close the project. Then simply reopen the session. Now in the floating mixer, we have the rest of our faders. Now we'll need to configure a couple more preferences. Users will notice certain batch commands may not trigger the correct key commands. This is because we need to import the Raven key commands. To do this, go to the Edit window, and in Key Commands, Presets, select Raven Steinberg keys, and hit OK. Now, all of our batch commands will map to the Cubase key commands. A final setup is in Edit Preferences. We will need to load the Raven Cubase preferences and hit Apply. This will be sure all the correct selections are made. For instance, Sync Selection in Project Window and Mix Console should always be unchecked so that the Mix Console doesn't bank without the Raven. Users may also prefer to deselect Enable Record on Selected Audio Track, Enlarge Selected Track, and Scroll to Selected Track. These preferences will also store the correct default color scheme, as the Raven internal mixer needs to utilize the correct color scheme to sync properly. Now, let's set up the Raven internal mixer. Hit the Mix button on the Raven, and this will bring up the Raven internal mixer. Currently, the Mix console is not syncing correctly, so we need to make a couple adjustments. The first one is to turn on the channel selector, turn on the EQ curve and the channel racks. Then we will need to align the Cubase mixer with the red outline of the Raven mixer. To do this, hide the Raven and drag up the Mix console to give a little space. Then open up the Raven toolbars again and select the mixer so we can see the white outline. Next, drag this white outline to match the red line of the Cubase console. Now our Raven internal mixer is syncing with the Cubase mixer, and we have multi-touch control over the Cubase Mix console. Also, for banking, be sure to show 24 tracks in the Mix console, as Cubase and Raven always want to bank by 24 tracks. And if users would like to make any adjustments to certain items showing, make your adjustments, update the workspace. Now, this workspace will always show the correct settings when switching between the project and Mix console.
The Raven software has the option to choose between 3 main 24-channel mixers. The first is called the external mixer, labeled Extern Mixer. This is our own design mixer that covers the entire Raven screen and sits on top of Cubase and Nuendo. The channel settings window and plugins will hover above this mixer. The other mixer is called the internal mixer, labeled Intern Mixer. This integrates directly into the Cubase and Nuendo Mix console windows seamlessly by covering the Cubase fader caps with our own multi-touch mixer and fader caps. The last mixer is called the Floating Mixer and can be set to 8, 16, and 24 tracks. This mixer is best when used when adjusting levels in the project window. To access the Raven internal mixer, use the Project Mix button located here to toggle between the Project and Mix console. This Project Mix button uses Workspace 1 and 2 to recall the windows, and these workspaces will be installed with the Raven software, so be sure the Window Layouts option is checked when installing the software. Note: on Dual Raven, these buttons will not be shown, as the Raven mixer must always be shown on the main display in dual mode. After running the installer, the Raven workspaces will be added globally into Cubase. To confirm they were installed, click the Workspaces menu tab and confirm the Raven workspaces are showing. These workspaces are also mapped to the Raven Steinberg key commands, so be sure those are selected in the key command preferences. The Cubase project window is mapped to Alt-1, and the Cubase Mix Console is mapped to Alt-2 on the keyboard. Press these key commands to automatically recall the project and mix window and their correct alignment. If these workspaces are not showing, it is possible the presets folder has not been created in the Cubase preferences on this system, so the Raven installer was unable to add them in the correct place. To add manually, first create a test workspace to create the presets folder, close down Cubase, and then reinstall the workspaces from the Raven installer. Open the Raven installer and hit OK. Then, instead of running the uninstaller, click Cancel to go to the next step. Now in the checkbox, only select Window Layouts. Now Raven will add the workspaces in the correct folder. To manually align, open the Mix Console and in Cubase 9, click the drop menu on the top right of the screen and click the Setup Window Layout button here. Note, on Cubase 8, this drop menu will be shown on the top left. Now, for the options, we'll select Equalizer Curves, Channel Racks, and Channel Selector to align with the internal mixer. All other options here should not be selected. Note, Confirm Control Room Mixer is not selected. Next, we'll need to remove the input and output tracks from the Mix Console since these types of tracks do not send controller data to Raven and vControl. From the Track Configurations tab on the top left, remove inputs and outputs by deselecting them from the list like this. Hiding these tracks will ensure the Raven internal mixer faders will correspond correctly to the Cubase Mix Console. If you're using Cubase 9, be sure also to hide all sampler tracks in the Mix Console as these tracks do not show on the Raven mixer either. Note, if your workflow depends on these input and output tracks, it is possible to set up Mix Console 2 to show these tracks as well as the control room mixer. However, the internal mixer will not be able to be used in this type of Mix Console configuration. Last, we'll need to make sure we have a maximum of 24 tracks showing. Use the key commands G and H on the keyboard to set your mixer to display 24 tracks, like this. All of the Raven fader caps should be showing correctly and not hanging over the edge of the Mix Console, as well as no extra Cubase faders should be showing after the last Raven internal mixer fader cap. Note, banking 24 or one track at a time will not work correctly unless 24 tracks are showing. So if you notice the internal mixer is off by one track, then it is possible the tracks aren't zoomed out enough. Confirm alignment by ensuring the tracks are seamless between Cubase or Nuendo and Raven. This alignment is detailed to the pixel, so a minor misalignment will result in an alignment failure. Be sure to align accurately before proceeding. If using multiple displays, you may want to utilize different workspace configurations to take advantage of the extra screen real estate. This will require setting up the workspaces manually. To do this, recall Workspace 1 by using Alt-1 or selecting it from the Workspaces menu. Drag the edges of the project window above the Raven toolbar so it is not covered by the Raven. Then drag all other windows to your other displays such as the Mix Console, Piano Roll, or Editor and select Update Workspaces from the Workspaces menu to lock in the changes. Next, open Workspace 2 by using Alt-2 or selecting it from the Workspaces menu. Drag the Mix window above the Steinberg menu items and release the window. It will automatically reposition to the highest point. Then, drag the bottom of the mixer up above the Raven toolbar, leaving about half of the bottom screen empty like so. Now, on the Channel Selector tab, we'll first grab the bottom of the mix window here and align the Cubase yellow or white outline with the Raven red guideline. Then, we'll align the top of the Track Faders window with the provided red guideline at the top. We'll adjust the fader size by clicking and dragging the area where the channel selector meets the first fader here. If using a second display, drag the project window over to that display, resize it, then update the current workspaces to save the window layout. Note, you can hit Hide Raven if necessary to make it easier to grab the corners of the Mix Console. I can select multiple tracks in the Raven internal mixer by hitting the black modifier button labeled Shift on the Raven toolbar, then selecting the furthest track. In the Raven external mixer, I can quickly select tracks by toggling the black Control modifier button and swiping my finger across the tracks. The Raven installer has included custom Raven workspaces for Cubase and Nuendo designed to work in conjunction with your batch commands. Use Workspace 1 for the Cubase project window. Here, you can adjust how many Raven toolbar racks you would like visible and adjust the size of the edit window accordingly. Use Workspace 2 for the Cubase Mix Console window. This will bring up the Raven internal mixer, which can only have one rack. To program a batch command, push and hold one of the batch command buttons. If empty, the menu will appear blank. However, if you are overriding a batch command with previous programming, hit the Clear All button in the batch command menu and the button will be ready for programming. To enter a key command, hit the Key Command button on the batch command menu and then enter your desired key command. To the right of the key command on the command line, you can add delay to the key command prior to launch or even add a number of repetitions you would like the command to perform before moving to the next line in the command sequence. As an example, let's make a batch command that will create 5 new mono audio tracks. Hit the key command button and enter Control-Option-A. Next, hit the key command button and add Enter. Then, add 100 milliseconds to each of the delay times by clicking in the delay time area with the mouse. Repeat this command 5 times by selecting both batch commands and hitting Duplicate 5 times. Now, I'll name the batch command 5 new audio tracks and give it a color by touching one. To save this batch command for future use, I hit the Save button. It is now located in my User tab to quickly recall later. To lock in this custom batch command into my Open Batch Command button, simply hit Confirm on the batch command menu and now try touching the batch command and watch it create 5 new audio tracks for you automatically. In the batch command menu, you can also access preset batch commands as well as the custom batch commands you have saved. Touch the Quick List button to open access to preset menu item and mouse click items to program into your command line. Let's create a batch command that will add my favorite plugin to my selected track and save it to our Quick List user tab. First, hit the Quick List button and in the search bar on the top, let's type Add Custom Plugin Insert 1 project window and select it from the list. Then add 1000 milliseconds delay time to give the mouse enough time to click the insert. Next, type in the name of the plugin, in this instance, Virtual Mix Rack. First, hit Key Command and type in the name of the plugin. To add the spacebar in between the words, press Key Command and enter a spacebar action. Hit the Key Command button again and add the return key to instantiate the plugin. Then add 1000 milliseconds after the return key to give the plugin time to open. Next, search the Quick List for Hide Channel Settings and Plugins project window. Then add 1000 milliseconds delay time by clicking in the Delay tab. Next, in the Quick List search bar, let's type Add Custom Plugin Insert 2 and select it from the list. Then add 1000 milliseconds delay time to give the mouse enough time to click the insert. Next, type in the name of the plugin, in this instance, Eosis E2. First, hit Key Command and type in the name of the plugin. To add the spacebar in between the words, press Key Command and enter a spacebar action. Hit the Key Command button again and add Return to instantiate the plugin. Then add 1000 milliseconds after the return key to give the plugin time to open. Search the Quick List for Hide Channel Settings and Plugins project window, then add 1000 milliseconds delay time by clicking in the Delay tab. Next, search the Quick List again for Add Custom Plugin Insert 3 and select it from the list. Then add 1000 milliseconds delay time to give the mouse enough time to click the insert. Next, type in the name of the plugin, in this instance, Multiband Compressor. Hit the Key Command button again and add Return to instantiate the plugin. Let's name it Vocal Plugin Chain, give it a color, and hit Save. Now, let's put it into action. Simply select the tracks you wish to add the vocal plugin chain to and hit our newly created custom batch command and watch it do the work for you. Let's create a batch command that will create a visibility configuration for the selected tracks. First, open a batch command and hit key command. Then type the key command to show selected tracks, which is Shift-Alt-T. Then add a little delay by clicking into the batch command delay tape and type in 500 milliseconds. Next, use the key command to create a new visibility configuration, which is Alt/, and give this a delay of 500 milliseconds. Next, hit key command and type Acapella. To add a space between the names, hit key command again and type in spacebar. Next, hit key command and type in tracks. Last, hit key command and type in enter to close the visibility configuration dialog. To get back to previously shown tracks, hit key command again and enter the key command to show all tracks, which is Control-Shift-Alt-O. Then save the batch command as create acapella and configure and save the batch command and give it a color. Now we can bring up this visibility configuration with the key command Control-Alt-Shift-1 or use the batch command in the floating window to recall this configuration. We've shown you a lot of great preset batch commands across your layouts and have also shown you how to customize your own batch commands using key commands and quick list items. Another really powerful feature to the batch command system is the ability to record your own custom mouse clicks. Let's record a mouse click to name a track. First, push and hold a batch command, then press the red record button. Next, double-click the name of the track in the Inspector tab, and then type in the name. Save the recording and then go into the User Quick List and add this recording in the editor. Give it a name and color, and press the batch command to watch it name the selected track. The Raven software requires the following minimum computer requirements to function properly. Raven will not work on an operating system earlier than Windows 7. On the MTX and MTI, we recommend a computer with a minimum of 2.3 GHz processing power, a graphics card with a minimum of 512 MB of VRAM and at least 4 GB of RAM. However, 8 GB of RAM is recommended. We are available for you to answer questions or comments Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, via our online support help desk, slatesupport.com. From all of us here at Slate, thank you for your attention and welcome to the future of studio control.